the Impostor Syndrome Files. I am so grateful that you're here, and I really hope that you've been enjoying the conversations that you've been listening to, and hopefully finding some tips, some next steps that you can take if you struggle with similar feelings of self-doubt, which obviously, as you're hearing, are fairly universal. This is something that we all go through from time to time. When I started this podcast, my goal was really to try to normalize the experience, to let everybody know that you are not alone, that there's a name for what you're feeling, and that there are steps that we can be taking to manage it more effectively. What I have found over the course of these conversations has been fascinating. I have had an absolutely powerful and different conversation with every single person who I have interviewed. I worried at one point that there may not be enough to talk about. How much is there to say about imposter syndrome? Are the stories going to start to get repetitive? That has absolutely not been the case. Everyone brings a fascinating new perspective to this conversation. I have learned something from every discussion that we've had. I hope you have too. I want to make a note that many of these recordings are being done during the social distancing that's happening with coronavirus. I am doing my best to protect the sound quality, but we are all in homes that have pets, kids, all kinds of background noise going on. For me, it's much more important to share with you a very natural conversation between two people than it is to share a perfectly polished recording. So I hope that you will bear with us if there are moments where the sound is not perfect. Really, my goal is to share stories, not to provide perfectly scripted, perfectly polished audio. So apologies for any imperfections that may be coming through in the recordings, but I'm hoping that you're getting the essence of the message regardless. So thank you again for being here. I wish you all the best and hope that you will consider sharing your own story one day. Thanks again.
Welcome, Kirsten. I'm so excited that you're here today. I would love to start by learning a little bit more about you.
Hi, Kim. It's awesome to be here. I love having a time that I can get together and just talk as business owners and women in business. So thanks for having me. My name is Kirsten Smith. I'm the owner of a corporate consulting and training business. It's called Made to Thrive. I've been in business for just working on 5 years now. And my business is really made up of two different parts. I teach soft skills classes like leadership, communication, time management, things like that in corporate settings. And then I also work on the other side of my business with entrepreneurs and executive teams to help them break through ceilings and work on helping them to cast their vision and gain traction toward that vision every day and form healthy and cohesive leadership teams.
I love it. All right. So I'm sure that as an entrepreneur, this is probably not an unfamiliar term to you, but what does imposter syndrome mean to you? And how, if at all, has it shown up in your career, in your life?
Yeah, I love it. And so here's my confession, my early on confession, right? I didn't know there was a name for this. And when I learned maybe a year ago, I started reading about imposter syndrome. I just had it was a great day for me because there's nothing like walking through something and feeling like you're alone and then discovering that other people have that same thought or emotion or feeling or have walked through that valley too. Isn't that encouraging?
Absolutely.
Right? It's encouraging to all of us to know that we're not alone. So imposter syndrome, the first time I heard that term, I really think it was maybe about a year ago. I sort of had that revelation, right? Like, wow, this is so widespread that they've named it. Like everybody understands. And of course, the term resonated with me immediately. And I will say that I had already, so as a business owner, right? When I struck out on my own, here I had been a very confident, successful businesswoman. I was leaving an organization I had been with for 10 years as the director of the business development team internationally. So I was one of 6 directors that ran this multi-million-dollar company. So I wasn't, shy on confidence. I'm kind of a tenacious woman anyhow. But striking out on my own, I don't know, I suddenly had this epiphany, right? Of, wow, we should really honor all people that do this because this is hard.
Mm.
And it was so much harder than I thought it was going to be in some ways. And I would say imposter syndrome was probably one of the biggest things. And I had said to my sister, who had owned her own business for about 15 years before me, wow, I'm waiting for people to feel like they discover that I'm a fake. I feel like I sit with clients and sometimes I feel like I want the session to end before they figure out that I'm not all that I say I am. And she laughed at me and said, I felt that way for 15 years. And I thought, really? Does that never go away? So that's kind of how I fell into that, is I had already had that epiphany that sometimes we're worried that we're going to get uncovered, that people are going to see that we don't have all the answers. And so to hear the term was just kind of reassuring.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you're talking about coming out of a role where you were very successful, had a lot of confidence, and entered this new space where suddenly you're feeling like a fraud, right? I mean, that's really what imposter syndrome makes us feel like, right? And so it's interesting because the experience of imposter syndrome is often happens among high achievers, people who are used to being successful, used to feeling like their skills are valued, they're making a great contribution. And so then when you find yourself in this whole new world that's different, right? You just haven't experienced it before. It's a shock. There is a lot of self-doubt that goes along with that.
Absolutely. And here's what I would say too, that don't underestimate the difference between being a part of a team and striking out on your own. Not that you don't have imposter syndrome, perhaps, when you're a part of a team. And I think that's where we're all very different, right? I didn't feel or experiencing imposter syndrome anywhere nearly as much when I was a part of a team. I'm sure it was there. And as I think back, I've been working on 5 years on my own, so it's been a little while, but thinking back, sure, I had those moments of that. And that's part of pressing into what's uncomfortable for us, which is something I've been teaching for years. As a matter of fact, let me just lay this foundation by saying, kind of in life, I'm that girl that gets behind all the other people and is like, oh my word, no, you've got this, right? So I've always just naturally been kind of that cheerleader that really gets behind people and believes in them. So I pour into other people. It's just my natural style, right? So it's funny that I would put my hand up and be like, but you know what? I feel like a fake sometimes too. And I think people look at strong, confident leaders and feel like you never waver. And that's just not the case. We all waver. We all have those moments where we feel like a fraud or a fake, or like we should have more answers than we do. I think for me, what just happened is when I went out on my own and I sort of not lost the backing, right? But I didn't have a team. I didn't have a team to fall back on. I didn't have a team to pull in when I felt like, hey, maybe I'm a little out of my depth here. Maybe I'm representing in a way that makes me feel like I'm faking it right now, or that I'm worried that they're going to shine the spotlight and any second now they're going to go, aha, you're an idiot. I think those moments are so much more significant when you don't feel like you have a team. So maybe that applies two ways, right? Maybe you're a part of something, but don't feel like you have the backing of a team. And I always felt like I had that. My last company that I worked with, I had a great team. So maybe if people don't feel like they have that backing, they feel that way. Or maybe if you're on your own, you feel that way even more. You just feel vulnerable, right? I mean, that's part of it, is feeling vulnerable.
Exactly. And I think you bring up a really good point, because certainly when you transition from being part of an organization to being an independent business owner, you go from having a team to having nobody. But even for people who are transitioning from one company to another, transitioning from one role internally to another, there is that period of time where you feel like, oh no, I'm on my own here, right?
Yeah.
You don't have the familiarity, the trust, the benefit of being able to be vulnerable with the people around you because you're still getting to know them.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. Right. So imposter syndrome can pop up its ugly head in so many different ways. But it's funny to hear you say that, Kim, because I think that's part of the key. That word vulnerability, that that idea that so there's two different ways you can approach it, right? I go to the new job and I feel like, oh, I've got to prove my worth and show them how smart I am. And it's true. There's a certain honor that we have to pay our employers to make sure that they're investing their money wisely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. It's something I've been talking a lot with my client base about through these last few weeks of, kind of dealing with this whole pandemic and people losing their jobs, right? Mm-hmm. And I keep saying, hey, it's time for us to lean in and make sure that we are a good value for our companies to invest in us, right? Mm-hmm. Not that I have somebody that's paying my salary as an independent contractor, right? But I feel even more responsible to make sure that my clients are getting great value out of me. Because it's a scary time. So there's that idea that I need to constantly show them that I have all the answers and all the knowledge, and I'm going to make their company so much better by being a part of the team. But on the other side of that, oh my word, Kim, I love the idea of teamwork. And I teach in my classes all the time this concept that the old style of leader is, let me rise to the top and lead you all and show you how great I am. And the new, more profitable style leadership, and when I mean profitable, I mean profitable for humans, is, hey, let me rise to the top so I can serve you better. And together we can show the world how great we are. Because here's the bottom line. I suck. Right? Like, I am really good at a handful of things. And maybe that's part of imposter syndrome, is we're afraid to admit that sometimes. We're afraid that it sounds pompous or cocky to say, I'm really good at a handful of things. But it's not, because the truth is we are all really good at a handful of things. And we all really suck at some things too.
Yeah. Yes.
So when you embrace the suck, what you realize, it's a very humbling action to embrace that and say, then flip into, but it's okay because I suck at this, but Kim's great at that. So Kim, please be on my team and make me better while I make you better. And isn't that kind of the foundation to our success, is we make each other better?
Absolutely. I love that so much. And I've been talking a bit about this too, as a confidence strategy of really embracing the fact that we already have strengths, that even though we may not be as good as we think we should be for the most part, or even want to be in other areas,
yes,
we're already good at something, right? We have earned our right to be in the role that we're in,
yes,
to be in whatever room that we're in today, right? But I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, and this is certainly tied to imposter syndrome, of knowing everything, being everything, having all of the information, when in actuality, there's a lot of stuff I don't know that I don't want to know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And there's only so much time in the day. So rather than beat myself up over not having expertise in areas that I frankly don't even care about,
yep,
why not partner with somebody who is super excited about that stuff while I get to focus on the things that I really care about?
Oh my goodness. And I feel like, right. So I am, this is a big year for me, Kim. I turned the big 50 this year. Yeah. And I am never afraid to say my age, in part because I love getting older. It's so much better than being 16. I know people are always like, high school is the best. And I'm always like, no, didn't love it. The older I get, the more wisdom we gain, right? Life experience is a great teacher. And so as I'm pushing into that being 50, I'm embracing some things that I think I was afraid to embrace when I was younger. And I always think about this, when I was a kid and growing up, my dad was a motorhead. He was always buying and selling cars and working on them. And I always wanted to know how to change the oil and get in that engine and understand it. And I had no skill in there. I had nothing. I like empty vessel. There was nothing going on. I'd look into the hood of the car with my dad, so eager to partner with my dad and be his buddy and figure out how to do that. And it was like Greek. It just never resonated with me, right? So fast forward, I'm a really tenacious, I want to do it all kind of a girl. And I feel like I should be able to do it all. Like if I set my mind to it, I can do it. But now in the last few years, what I've come to realize is maybe I can, but I don't want to, right? So I've learned to surround myself exactly like you just said, with people that love what they do, so I don't have to. You know what? I have this amazing auto mechanic now, Kim. I don't ever want to learn another thing about my car. I don't care. I just want to get in it and I want it to take me places. So I got over that need to have to know everything and said, no, I just, changing oil is never going to be part of my shtick, and it's okay. And being great with numbers and tax documents, never going to be my shtick. So I partner with a great tax accountant and a great financial guy, right? Because I don't want to deal with that. So to your point, it's the teamwork, and let me exceed where I can. And let me just say this about that. I say sometimes a little politically incorrectly, everybody shouldn't get a trophy. And I know that's hard for people to hear, but this whole generation, this whole movement of everybody needs a trophy comes from this really cool place, right? It comes from us wanting everybody to feel good about themselves. And I love that. But sometimes I tell my students in my class, do you want to build confidence? Help people to discover what they're actually good at and celebrate that. And then help them to look at people that are good at the things that they're not, and drop the jealousy and the covetousness and instead celebrate them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, comparison is the thief of joy. And when we learn not to compare to each other, but to celebrate our strengths and celebrate somebody else's strengths, it's such a great feeling. It's such a win.
I absolutely love what you're saying. And I think you're so right about the trophy piece in particular, because everybody who gets a participation trophy knows it's a participation trophy.
Yes.
Right? There's no delusion about what that really is, even if it's designed to make everybody feel better.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make you feel like a winner, right?
Right.
So instead of trying to level the playing field, so to speak, by giving everybody a participation trophy, what you're describing is, let's appreciate each other for the unique strengths that we all bring. And so in this case, maybe this person deserves the quote unquote trophy, right? But over here, I have my own strengths that are trophy worthy. I don't want to be given a trophy for something that I know I'm mediocre at best at. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to, again, focus on the things that I know that I do really well and be really excited for the person who worked really hard and earned that trophy the right way.
Oh my goodness. And then we feel really good because we know we earned it, because we know we're good at it, right? And it's the American Idol syndrome, right? Don't we all wince when we watch American Idol and these kids that cannot sing are up there with all the confidence in the world saying, everybody tells me how great I am. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is a kid that gets a trophy for everything. It's because he's not good or she's not good at that. And it's not that they are worth any less as a human being. It's just not that they're good at that. That's not the thing, right? And it's so okay. And trust me when I say, girl, if I could handpick the gifts that I got on this earth, it would be singing. I would pick that for me. I want that.
I hear you.
I want to be that person with that angelic voice. And oh, have I coveted that over the years? I'm not. I can kind of carry a tune most of the time and sometimes not even carry a tune. But I am not even near idol worthy. But what a disservice we do to each other when we pat each other on the back and tell everybody, oh, you're so good at everything. Or you're so good at the things that you're not. It's like sending them off to American Idol. You know what I mean? Ready to be humiliated in front of the whole world. And instead, if we could just be honest with each other and say, I think you're good there, but I think you're great here. Or I don't think you really have it going on there as much as you think you do. And you have this passion and I love your passion, but let's look at how you can take that passion and come at it from a different angle that really showcases your abilities and your skills. And I think sometimes we come at it because sometimes maybe we lack creativity. We go, the only way to celebrate humanity is to be a public speaker and to encourage them all, right? But that's not the case. So just because you're not a good public speaker doesn't mean you're out of a job in celebrating humanity. Right. You can come at celebrating humanity in 100 other ways. We just might need to get creative to figure that out.
I think what you're making me think of too is the fact that there's so much fear in the workplace on the part of both the manager and the individual to have an honest conversation, because so many times I talk to individuals who are feeling like they're not in the right role. It's not the best use of their skills. It's not something that they really enjoy, and they may know what the alternative is, or they may not know that yet, but they don't want to go to their manager and say, I'm not in the right role, right? They're afraid they're going to lose their job. They're afraid of whatever the outcome of that might be. And similarly, you've got managers who may see potential in their employees in a different place, but don't want to provide honest feedback. They're afraid of conflict or upsetting somebody. And think of how unfortunate that is to an organization to have people in the wrong seats, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And the potential that's lost when we have a whole bunch of people who are afraid to talk to each other.
So the average stat right now is that 70% of people in the workplace are disengaged. 70%. So if we think about that, right? So everybody right now, just envision 7 out of 10 of your colleagues are disengaged. And what does disengaged look like, right? We don't ask good questions. We talk snarky about our company or our bosses. We're looking for other work. We show up late. We call out sick, right? It's nothing good about it. Nothing good comes from a disengaged employee. And 70% is the current stat by Gallup poll that says 70% of people are disengaged. Yikes. Yikes. Like, corporations should sit up and pay attention. Why are they disengaged? And in my classes, I teach several facets of why. A lot of it is communication, right? We don't communicate, but sometimes we don't communicate because it's hard. One of the things that I teach people in, I think, my leadership class is about how to give negative feedback, because we don't like to give negative feedback. We feel like that's really hard. But sometimes giving negative feedback and being pointed and straightforward about it is a relief to everybody, right? Because then at least we're getting clear direction. We know what we're good at and what we're bad at, or where we're succeeding and where we're failing. And we know the stats tell us that people would rather have negative feedback than no feedback at all. Absolutely. All the stats point to that. So it's important for us. And you said so many things that just made my brain fire up. And one of them you said is the wrong people in the wrong seat. And that's one of the things I work with in the companies, the clients that I have all the time, is right people, right seat. And it's okay if you have a person that does not align with your core values, or that doesn't get it, want it, or have the capacity to do that job. To move them to a different seat or simply let them go is actually doing them a favor, because if they don't get the job, if they're not being successful, you know what? They hate it too.
Yes.
They're drained. They're not wanting to come to work every day. They don't love it. It's a rare person that is so completely blinded that they don't know how badly they're doing, right? That's not the norm. So I encourage people all the time, and I give them a tool called the People Analyzer. It's so simple. It's just this really, really crazy simple tool that you write down your core values and the words get it, want it, capacity, and you sort of evaluate everybody on your team, and you help them, right? You pour into them, because we're not about letting people go. We're about pouring in and building people up. But listen, the bottom line is, if somebody else, that imposter syndrome, if they are feeling like a fake in their job, wow, set them free. Let them know this isn't the best place for them, and find a place where they can thrive.
I could not agree with you more. I was thinking about that too, because I worked in tech for a long time during moments like the .com bust and, just general economic twists and turns that led to a number of layoffs at the company where I was working. And it was painful. It was really, really hard to be watching your friends get let go. It was hard to be the survivor, so to speak.
Yeah.
But after the dust settled, I can't think of a single person who was laid off who didn't think of that as a gift.
Yeah.
Because there was something often, and I know this isn't always true, but there was often something that was like making the person think that it was time for a change anyway, but they were nervous about taking that step. feeling like they should be happy to have a job, all kinds of things that their inner voice was telling them that kept them from making that change. And once they were set free, like you said, they were able to move in a direction that was so much better for them.
I absolutely agree. And if I can, let's pivot and look at the other side of that, right? Because here's the other side. You and I can both be a testament to the fact that sometimes you're going to feel like imposter syndrome is happening, and it's just something you have to push through. So that's the opposite side, right? On one side, when you're faking it in your career and you never gain that confidence and never realize your full potential, or you're working outside of your strengths every day so that you're completely demotivated on the job most days, none of that is good, right? That's when a change should happen. But don't confuse that with the other side that, sometimes you feel like imposter syndrome is weighing heavy on you because you are faking it till you make it. And there's nothing wrong, cautiously, with faking it until you make it, right? Like, you can't overstep your boundaries there. But, I will never forget probably the first time imposter syndrome really hit me hard, and it almost completely changed my career trajectory. So I had been with my kids home for 7 years, and it was time for me to go back to work. And all I really ever had a hope and a dream for, Kim, was to just make money to pay the bills. I never had huge aspirations for a career. I've been married for over 30 years. I have 3 kids, and that was sort of my dream. I love being a mom and a wife, and, it was just supplemental. Sort of, that was how I looked at a job. And so when I started out, those 7 years later, getting back into the workforce, I took a job at a IT training center startup, and I just wanted to answer their phones and say hey to their customers. That's all I had envisioned. But the owner of their company felt like I had more potential and really pushed me to go into a sales role. Now, Kim, there's 2 things I swore I would never. 1, I will never have 3 kids. 2, I will never be in sales. And here was this opportunity. And I thought I'll never be in sales because I don't want to lie to people to get them to buy something that I think is good for them that's not really good for them, which, now I can say after 20 plus years of being in sales, that's a bad salesperson. It happens, but it doesn't have to happen, and nor should it. So at any rate, she pushes me into sales, and I don't want to, because imposter syndrome is real. Like, I don't know how to sell. I don't know enough about the product. So I kind of enter in the role, and I feel okay. I'm doing sales, not to companies and big corporations, but to individuals. I'm pretty comfortable there because I like people, and I believed in this IT training center. Well, it wasn't too long before the owner said, no, you can do business to business sales. And Kim, let me just tell you, I fought it, kicking and screaming. No, I don't know enough, and I'm not savvy, and I'm not a business person. And she really worked with me and really coached me, and I'll never forget it. The first day I sat down and I think it was my first real business to business call, and I got exposed. This woman tore me up. It was on the phone, so thank God, because she couldn't see the tears pooling in my eyes, right? So I'm a 20-something. I don't believe in myself. I don't think I can do it. I'm riding on the coattails of this amazing and incredible woman who was trying to convince me I could, and saw more in me than I saw in myself. And can I just say that again? She saw more in me than I saw in myself. And my next boss, which I only had 2 bosses in my whole career, did the exact same thing. He saw more in me than I saw in myself. That's where imposter syndrome tries to derail us and blind us and make us think we're not worthy, right? We're not enough. So I get totally found out. Imposter syndrome, forget calling it a farce or a shameful thing. It was real, man. It was real. I was an imposter. I didn't have it. So I'm on the phone with this woman 10 minutes, and she is just asking me question after question, and I have no answers, and I'm stumbling over my words, and I lacked confidence, and I didn't pull it off well, and I hung up, and tears streamed down my face as a young 20-year-old something. And I walked out of the office door, and I looked at the owner of the company, and I said, I am done. I am going home. And out I went. And I think I cried myself all the way home. But let me just say, growth is painful. And learning to step outside of our comfort zone means we have to get uncomfortable. And let's not confuse that with the imposter syndrome that makes us never feel like we're good enough, where this is a momentary not good enough. And maybe I really wasn't, Kim. Maybe I didn't know it and I didn't have the knowledge and the skills necessary. But you know what I did? I went back the next day and I tried it again. And I tried it again. And what I fell into was a career that I loved. I spent 25 years doing business development, AKA sales, the thing I never thought I'd do. And I loved it because I learned how to sell with integrity. And I learned that it's okay that I don't have all the answers. And I learned how to surround myself with people that have the answers when I don't, right? So I just want to be cautious to say that as we experience that syndrome of this is hard and I'm uncomfortable and I'm not good enough, well, yeah. And so you go to practice more and try more and read more and learn more and bring on that humility until you are good enough. And then when we have the imposter syndrome pop its ugly head up, we go, settle on down because I'm going to learn a little bit more and I'm going to defeat that.
Yes. Absolutely. I think that the real message underlying what you're saying is that doing something for the first time is really hard. And there's no way that we can expect to be experts right out of the gate, right? There's no one else who has that expectation of us other than ourselves. And being able to recognize change is uncomfortable. It's hard being new. But like you said, I have resources available to me. I can dust myself off and come back again tomorrow, and I will get better. And I will either get better and stronger and feel in my comfort zone, or I can choose to do something else. But this is not a permanent state. This is not a reflection of your overall value to the world, right? This is a moment in time where things feel scary, but it's not going to stay that way.
Absolutely. And isn't that the benefit, right? Listen, we should never look at really difficult circumstances as all bad or all negative. I used to teach kids all the time, not professionally. I was not a school teacher, but I taught at camps and church and things like that. Love kids. It's like my heartbeat, right? Love it. And I used to always do this object lesson. So envision with me for a moment that I'm making a cake. And I want you to think about, and I would bring the ingredients up in front of my kids and show them, right? Okay, what do I have here? I have flour. Anybody want to take a bite of flour? Who wants a spoonful of flour? And they'd all go, ew. And I'd put the flour in the bowl. And then I'd bring out baking soda. And who wants a bite of baking soda? Nobody. Who wants a bite of salt? Nobody. Who wants a cupful of oil? Nobody, right? Who wants me to crack a raw egg and drop it in your mouth? And I put all the ingredients in, and then I save. What do I put in last? Right? Sugar, maybe chocolate chips, right? Or I don't know, whatever you're baking, right? Maybe in that cake, I have 2 ingredients, or usually even 1 that's actually sweet. So it takes all these things by themselves that are not sweet, not good, not yummy, not delightful. And then I add to that 1 sweet thing, 1 good thing, and it makes a cake. Who doesn't love cake, right? So if we envision our life like that, let's embrace the fact that the suck moments actually are part of the cake ingredients that make the cake. They make our life. And if we remind ourselves that we can't be kept down by that, we are learning from that. Like, oh, I just smacked a wall, learning that I can't sing. Crap. I really want to sing. Okay, pivot. What can I do, right? So you take each thing you run into, each wall you run into, each defeat, each moment of feeling like an imposter, each moment of feeling like, wow, I'm not as good as I thought I was. And then you add into that 1 or 2 moments of honest, good success. And what you get is this beautiful character, and you become such a better human being for it. So we just can't forget that those negative things are actually part of what's shaping us into being all that we should be.
Oh, I love that so much. I think I'm going to think of the cake from now on. I think that's such a great way to think about it. And I think this is a perfect way for us to wrap up today. I feel like I could talk with you all afternoon. But in closing, what motivated you to want to tell your story today? And what are you hoping people will take away from it?
Love the question. So here's my motivation. The name of my business is Made to Thrive. And it was really born out of this idea. And this is what I do. I coach people and I'm a trainer because I honestly believe from my gut that we were meant to more than just survive. We were made to thrive. And we can thrive so much more when we are authentic and transparent with each other. I said earlier, comparison is the thief of joy. Mm-hmm. And I mean that. So as people, as women, as business people, as human beings, if we can stop comparing and just be open and honest with each other and put up a hand and say, this was hard for me too, aren't we so much better for that? Mm-hmm. And I feel like, right, if we celebrate each other's unique abilities and if we lean into that and just have that open and honest conversations, we'll rise up better as humans when we're together rising up. So that was really the inspiration. Is it comforted my heart to know I wasn't alone in my walk with feeling that imposter syndrome. So I certainly want other people to know that as well.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. This has been such a pleasure. And I am sure that a lot of people will be inspired by what you shared with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Kim. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and share it with other women who can benefit from this conversation. Before we go, I want to share some additional resources with you. If you struggle with imposter syndrome and you want to manage it more effectively, I invite you to join my free Imposter Syndrome online challenge. Every day for 7 days, you'll get an email with self-reflection questions and exercises to help you better understand your own experience with imposter syndrome and how to navigate it more effectively. To join the free challenge, visit executivekareersuccess.com/imposter-syndrome-challenge. When you sign up, you'll immediately receive your first message. Also, if you're interested in joining a community of women who engage in candid conversations that generally aren't happening elsewhere, I invite you to join my Leading Women discussion group. On the first and third Thursday of every month at 12 p.m. Eastern, we meet virtually over Zoom to talk about questions or challenges related to career management, leadership development, and any other relevant topics such as imposter syndrome and confidence. It's always a great discussion with a great group of women. If you want to check it out, you're welcome to be my guest on a future call. Just reach out to me at kim@executivekareersuccess.com and I will share the call details with you. And if you want to join my newsletter to receive tips, insights, and updates, text Leading Women, all one word, to 66866. Finally, consider telling us your story. Contact me to learn more about how you can be a guest on the Impostor Syndrome Files. Thanks again and have a wonderful day.